Thank you so much. All right. So a very warm welcome to you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we have with us Arun. So Arun is, I guess, the youngest among them all. So he was here actually. I could see him on the video. I don't know. He's disappeared now. So Arun is associated with the Turtle Conservation and Research Center in Kozhikode, Sri Lanka, which is the largest turtle conservation and research center or turtle protection center in Sri Lanka. And then we'll be having Dr. Jajati K. Nayak. He's a scientist and he's working with the Department of Atomic Energy in Kolkata. So he's working on variable energy and cyclotron energy. And BK Srinidhi will also be joining us. He's associated with the Brahma Kumaris Environment Initiative with its headquarters in Mount Abu. So I welcome you all once again and all the
Thank you.
participants as well. So we'll be starting with today's session. So I now request Dr. Rohitashwa Shukla to present his views on nurturing biodiversity, nourishing biodiversity, and also tell us something about what your area of research is, what you're working on. Over to you, Dr. Rohitashwa. Rohitashwa, you need to unmute your mic, I think. Yeah.
So I work on freshwater fishes actually, and I have done my PhD in Central India. I have tried to understand how fish communities try to cope with different environmental variables and the anthropogenic factors. And then I moved to Wildlife Institute of India, and I have also studied the fish ecology of Ganga River. And then I'm now working on the fishes of the Western Ghats. So basically, I try to understand the distribution patterns of the fishes across the geographical range. So we ask different kind of questions, that what are the ecological and evolutionary factors which affect the distribution of the freshwater fishes. So we collect samples from different regions at the local scale, at the regional scale, and at the macroecological scales, and try to answer what can be the possible reason and how we can explain the current biodiversity patterns. So we also answer the different questions related to conservation also. So if we have ecological knowledge, proper ecological knowledge about the freshwater fishes, we can use those inferences or results in conserving the freshwater fishes also. Uh, so yes, as you said that why this conservation is needed, why we have to think about to conserve the biodiversity. How I feel that we are connected with each other in this world. We cannot live individually, and we need these tiny creatures, these animals, these plants, because we are the part of the larger food web. And each and individual creature living on this earth is needed to fulfill that cycle. So if something is missing, you will lose the proper cycling of energy and nutrients. So if you see in this way, you will find uh, yourself to be responsible to conserve all these creatures which are around you.
Right, right. So, so why did you feel like maybe taking this up as a career? Why you chose water ecology or whatever you're doing? So, what was the
Yeah.
reason behind that? Yeah.
So I come from a district place called Hoshangabad. It is in central India, and it is near the banks of Narmada. So yeah, my whole childhood was near around Narmada only. So in that way, I'm connected to rivers.
Okay.
So I was fascinated towards the fishes from
Mm-hmm.
my childhood only. So I after doing my post graduation in biotechnology, I thought that I should carry on the research in fish ecology only.
Okay, fish ecology, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll come back to you now. We'll interact with Krishna. So, Krishna, a very warm welcome. And can you
Thank
tell
you.
me something about yourself, what you're doing, and also your views on nourishing biodiversity? Over to you, Krishna.
Okay, so namaskar, good morning to everyone. I'm from Mauritius. I'm Krishna Pentaya, and I'm actually studying my third year bachelor in mechanical engineering. I just turned 22, celebrated my birthday in confinement, and I'm the president and founder of an organization, environmental NGO here in Mauritius called Sauve la Nature. And so Vlanatia means in Creole language, our mother tongue, to save nature. But honestly, we don't really believe that we as mere humans, we can possibly save nature because we all know that Mother Earth can heal itself. And we absolutely do not believe in the story that human beings will one day save nature. But like we all know, she always wins. And we believe also that since she've experienced 5 massive extinction, we human beings are really nothing compared to that huge lifetime of billions of years that Earth survived. And why the name Sauve la Nature, Save Nature? Because we also believe in the spirituality and philosophy of nature, that we are not just part of nature, but we are an expression of nature. We are nature, actually. Because when you study the physics, when I was doing physics back in my high schools, I looked at it in a very spiritual way also, where the physics, elemental physics, teach us about how everything is made up of atoms, actually, at a particulate level. And ultimately, everything, even human beings, even outside of us, the environment, the nature, is at a particular level are made up of electrons, protons, and neutrons. And ultimately, all of us are equal for nature, in an expression of nature. So actually, save nature is meaning to save ourselves, because ultimately everything on the planet is one. And like you were saying, the even the smallest of all organisms count in this huge chain. Like we also believe in the Hindi saying, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that the world is a one big family. And like we are experiencing right now in the world, especially in the United States, I think that nature can be one way for all humans to connect back again together and to increase our own humanity. So yeah, that's a bit what we do in Sovranatsia. And I've prepared a little PowerPoint. When you're ready, just tell
Sure,
us.
sure, sure. Yes, we'll get back to you. So, I would now like to interact with Srinidhi. Hello, Srinidhi. Welcome.
Hello, welcome everyone. It's good to be here. And I was listening to all of you. It just feels so uplifting to just be amongst the positive people who have positive approaches to the work that they are doing. Of course, when you take part in spirituality, when you work with a spiritual organization, these things are common to you. These appear as a natural understanding. But when you see people working in different fields, in fields of their own expertise, and they have a positive approach to it, which is not necessary actually, but they have made it a point that they imbibe that positivity into their actions and the work that they do. That is what inspires a great deal. And I believe, as an opening remark, I would just want to say it's a happy environment day to everyone. We all understand now, at least this year has been very pressing, where nature has taught us very beautifully in her own special ways of the importance of being closer to nature and what value she holds to us. Of course, there's a lot that we can learn. There's a lot that we can think about what we should be doing, not in terms of what we've been doing over the past years, but starting this point, starting this year, we've all had enough time to reflect on our own selves, to rethink our consumption patterns, and the way that we live our lives, the way that we think, the way that we interact with nature. All of this has been questioned, and it is like a great pause that the planet has taken, and we should utilize this pause to rethink and to change things from here onwards. And I guess there's a lot more to talk about that we'll for sure take it up when the session opens up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Srinidhi. So maybe I can, so you can tell us about what biodiversity exactly is, what a biodiversity hotspot is, what are endemic species. Maybe many of us do not know exactly what these things are. So maybe in brief about these things, and then maybe we can later go on to whatever you want to present.
Does that question come to me, or does it go specifically to someone?
Sorry?
Is that question directed to me?
No. Among anyone among people who are researching on biodiversity or any of the other things.
It is a good thing that I guess all of us can share a little bit about what they understand as biodiversity.
Sure.
So I'll just with my friends here to start.
Srinidhi, actually, your voice is not very clear. I'm having a problem hearing you. So.
Is it better now?
Yes, a bit better, but there's still some disturbance.
Okay, I'll try to fix it. I think Rohit can say something about biodiversity.
Yeah, so I want to share something with you. Actually, most of the people understand that different kind of species, different organisms, flora, fauna, this is called the biodiversity. But biodiversity has a very broad definition. You can have a diversity of different species. You can have a diversity of different functional aspects of species. You can have a diversity of different phylogenetic lineages, and you can understand diversity in different ways. Even you can have a diversity of different habitats also. So biodiversity is all about the factors which can affect the ecosystem as a whole, and they are responsible to maintain the equilibria amongst different ecosystems. So this biodiversity has a very broad definition.
Okay, Krishna, maybe your views on that?
Yeah, for me, so biodiversity, I don't really study it at an intellectual level. I'm a mechanical engineering student, but biodiversity is how each and every living thing on the planet interact with each other to foster better quality life, and in their natural habitat to foster a better system. Like I know in Sauve la Nature, we have a project to plant 1 million trees in Mauritius before 2030 with the help of the youngsters. And for the betterment of biodiversity, it's not planting quantitatively like massive plantation, no, it's planting qualitatively, like to know where to plant, which tree to plant. And endemic trees are far more important for biodiversity than planting exotic invasive trees. For example, here in Mauritius, we have the Mauritian fruit bat, which actually prefer, according to the science, they prefer to eat fruits from an endemic Mauritian tree called bois carotte. So like you can see, endemic trees and the flora and the fauna both depend on each other, because they were here since the dawn of time, since Mauritius was created by actually volcanic eruptions. We are a small island in the Indian Ocean, and that's really the importance of biodiversity, to create not only healthy natural habitat for animals, but also in a sustainable way for us to be able to survive. That's actually my thought on that.
It's very interesting. Thank you so much. We also have Arun with us. Arun, can you hear me? Arun, can you hear me? Maybe not. Can you see me? Can just something? Okay, no worries. All right. So we'll move on. So Krishna, as you said, you had some presentation. Yeah, maybe we can go ahead with that.
Okay.
Yep.
So okay, so I have to share the screen. You'll have to enable share screen option.
Yes.
It says that the host disabled attendees screen sharing.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So can the host enable screen sharing for all participants?
So I'm just going to speak on what we do here in Mauritius in the organization, and how important the biodiversity is for not just for a small island, but for the globe. Yeah.
Okay. So can you share it now, or
No.
settings haven't been changed? Okay. Is the host here? Can the host hear me? Okay, maybe not. Okay. Krishna, actually, when you were talking, you said that on an individual level, there is not much that we can do, is what you meant? Or there is, like you said, yeah, maybe you can talk about that, because if there is not much that we can do on an individual level, then that is a bit, I don't know, disheartening. So what did you exactly mean by that?
No, I didn't say that. I said that it's not, we can't save nature. I didn't say that on an individual level. Is that
Okay.
what you meant?
Yeah, like you said that we can't save nature. So what did you mean by that?
I mean that, like right now, we are experiencing nature is, for me, in the Gaia hypothesis. The Gaia hypothesis actually explains on how living and non-living things interact within each other to foster a bigger living organism. In the Gaia hypothesis, they mention that nature as a living organism, a bigger living organism. So we can't actually save the planet, because the planet will heal itself, will save itself with all the microcosm it possesses, and microcosm also, and macrocosm, from the smallest to the largest organism. But what we actually are doing is saving ourselves from extinction. We are not really saving the bigger organism as nature, but we are saving ourselves from extinction. That's what I meant by we can't save nature, because ultimately nature experienced those massive extinction. There were creatures even more scary, powerful than us, the dinosaurs during the Jurassic period and all. There was the Cretaceous period where the, okay, I think I may share my screen.
Srinidhi, I would like to know your perspective on this. So what can we do on an individual level, and can we save nature?
I think I agree with what Krishna had to say. The question is not about saving the nature, it is about saving ourselves now.
Okay.
Nature has shown us in the past few months that how powerful she is. We have seen most of the times at the times of calamities, when natural calamities like an earthquake or a flood or a tornado, when these things happen, of course, that time we come together and we understand the power of nature, because then there is a great thing that is happening with it. But this time, when the outbreak of the virus happened, all that was done was just putting human beings into their homes. It was not a big punishment, so to say. It was just like here in India, we have this story that when Krishna was a child and he was very naughty, And his mother, Yashoda, she would just tie him up and not give him freedom. He was bound to one place. And that is when he would realize his mistake and he would come back to his mother. So I think nature as mother has also done the same to us, that she gave us this time. We were bound to one place to rethink about what we have done. So I guess that is what is very important. And what we can do is certainly there is a great deal that we can do. Scientists have spoken about it that in the past 50 years, we have lost a great deal of biodiversity. We have lost almost 30% of species in the last 50 years. And all of that has happened because of human interaction. It's about how we have depleted forests, or we have converted into farmlands, or we dumping waste into the ocean. So a lot of things has happened because of our influence on the nature, how we are interacting with the nature. So we are at the cause of this. So it is if we change, then everything else will change. Naturally, nature has the ability to heal itself, but we should allow her the time. We should allow her to act on her own behest. But we, the human interaction, has always been interrupting the natural balance. So when we do that, we know what happens. And like Krishna was pointing out, he said something about the great extinctions that have happened on the planet. And scientifically speaking, of course, we have theoretically understood that there were 5 great extinctions. And he also pointed out there were bigger species than us who were more powerful and more strong than us. Even they don't exist today. So it does not matter whether you're big or you're smart or you're intelligent. So if nature sees that if a certain species overgrows its population, it tries to bring balance to that. And in the last 50 years or so, the human population has grown exponentially. So the population of the world of human beings we have quadrupled in the past 50 years. So this growth is a concern. So if we continue going on like this might have a serious impact. And I was reading one of the articles recently which said that if human beings could just only take as much as they need, just whatever is their basic necessity is, then there would be enough from the earth. And this is something that we should all think about now. And at the Brahma Kumaris, we have always taught people, and we have always believed in this, that if you want to see the change in the world, it has to begin from you. So what is outside is a mere reflection of what is on the inside. So how I think. So let's say if I'm a more peaceful person, if I'm a more content person, if I'm happy, if I have the value of contentment within me, I would be happy with little things that I have around me. I don't need more. But on the other hand, if a person is not peaceful, if he or she is not calm or compassionate, then he or she would not care for other living beings or trees or plants or things around us. So it is important to have that virtue inside, to have that value inside, to have that vision of contentment, of compassion for everyone, and to take as less as possible. And just by changing this one shift in attitude that I don't need so much, a lot can be achieved. I believe most of the people during the lockdown here in India, many people whom I spoke to, switched to 2 meals a day. They said, because we are not going out anymore, we are not doing as much physical activity. So the consumption that we do, the things that we need to take from nature can also be reduced. I can consume less. So with 2 meals, they're surviving, and it was wonderful. So these are new experiments that we can do with our own selves. And I often say this, there is a great deal of similarity between science and spirituality. Science always asks questions. The very basis of science is to ask questions. Why? So, and that is the same basis for spirituality as well. Adi Shankara said, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Jigyasa is the curiosity. So, if you are not curious about it, then probably you will not grow spiritually as well. And science also believes in experimentation. We will not take anything for its face value. We would want to experiment it, see it, try it, test it, and only when it is verified, that is when something becomes a law. And the same applies to spirituality, that we all have to experiment. And I think this is where science is also telling us, and spirituality is also telling us, that we have to change something. And for that, we have to experiment with our own changes and try to do something better. And these changes definitely impact.
Thank you so much, Srinidhi. Yes, very quickly, Rohit Ashwa, your views on this? Can we save nature?
Yeah, so I think Krishna is right that we can't save nature, but we don't, in ecology, we generally don't say saving the nature, we say conserving the nature. Conserving is all about maintaining harmony with the nature. So, if you want to maintain harmony with the nature, you will have to understand how nature works. And the problem is, we don't know how nature works. Many of us don't know. We don't know what is the biodiversity around us, what are our neighboring flora and fauna. So these are the minute things we should think about, and we should. So as Srinidhi said that we should have compassion towards the nature. How will you generate that kind of compassion into our youth and kids? There should be some way, and this should come from our education, and it should be experimental, not the theoretical. It should not like this, these are the cycles, these are the patterns nature shows. It should be experimental. You should know how to grow your foods organically. You should know what spiders you have in and around your home. You should know what are the birds you have. When you will see those things in nature, then you will realize, and then you will start to love the components in nature, and then only you can proceed to make the peace and harmony with the nature.
Okay, thank you, Rohit Ashwa. Uh, Maybe there's something that Srinidhi wants to say.
I just agree with what Rohit Ashwa had to say. He said, nature does not need you to save her. What we need to do is conserve.
Yeah.
And that conservation is important. And when he was speaking about, we don't know about biodiversity much, we don't know about the species around us, the flora and fauna around us. I think the Brahma Kumaris local radio station here in Mount Abu did a very beautiful series of programs when we asked people to send recordings of how do they see biodiversity, what they have experienced biodiversity as. And many people shared very interesting anecdotes. And slowly, like he said, it is not about classroom teaching. It's about how much personal connect you can create. So that personal connect, people try to reconnect to their own connection that they had with nature. Many people tried to identify the birds that they had seen. There were also some old people who said that they used to have these vegetables in the old time that we don't see them anymore. People also pointed out that there were certain fruits that we would pick from the forest, but since there's a lot of deforestation that has happened, we no longer get those fruits from the forest anymore. So there were different things that people came up with. And I guess if we go back to those initial memories, if we go back to those things that we can fall back to, compassion would become easier. I think Rohit Ashwa asked this question, that how would I create that compassion? Compassion is not something that it has to be taught. We all have that as an innate virtue. We all have that nature of helping our friends, helping people. It's just that if we shift our attitude of seeing nature as our friend, more time that we spend with nature, then more time we can devote to understand our relationship as well, and we would naturally be caring about it. I think one of the things that I have done, in spite of being born in a city, I had the privilege to travel to natural places as much. And it did not mean that I had to travel great distance. It would be just going to a park or going out of the city, just to the outer limits, and spending time in farms. So these are few things that we can do. And for younger children, we should, like Rohit Ashwa pointed out, we should ask them to cultivate something. To cultivate compassion is to do something physical. Let's try growing a plant. And people would understand that how much of effort it requires. You have to care for it. And if you don't water it on time, if you don't give it enough sunlight, since we all live in cities, most of the people live in cities now. So a special care has to be taken. The plant has to be moved. So these simple acts will teach you that that caring nature that you have, that compassion that you have for that plant, that for living being, will naturally grow on you. So when you're growing a plant, you are not growing the plant grows in you. So it grows certain things inside you as well. So that small acts have to be done. And to start with, I believe, just pick up a broken coffee mug or a plastic bottle that you are discarding, put some water in it, try growing something in it, and let's see how things work. So you naturally learn those things.
Yes. Thank you, Srinidhi. So we'll move on to the presentation now. So before that, all the participants, if you want to ask something, then you can put your question in the chat window. So once Krishna is done with his presentation, maybe the panel members can answer your questions. So Krishna, the host has now changed the settings, so I think you can share your screen now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the presentation will be a small one, 10 minutes, on how Sauve la Nature really impacts and use the way that you spoke about, the to put compassion from one human being to another human being, and to make compassion something really that proliferates everywhere, that spreads around us. So I'll share the screen. So yeah, Sauve la Nature is a group of youngsters who began forming when in Mauritius. And like I told you, we really believe in and out beauty, unity in diversity. So as you might know, that Mauritius is just like a small Canada, where we have multi-ethnical, multicultural people of all religions and all skin colors. And we really believe that the world is one big family, and to foster compassion in human beings, we should know that how to connect each and every human being to the nature. Here are some of our members, where it's more like a family, like you've said earlier. The compassion is much needed now, more than ever, so that humanity can prevail in the world. And here is us. We started with a march to let our voices be heard, mainly youngsters of under age 25. And yeah, so we have different departments in Sauve la Nature to show that even whatever you're doing in life, even in arts field, political field, even in a language field, scientific field, you can ultimately connect back with nature. And all of these different fields actually connect together to create a more beautiful world. That's what we believe in. And I quote Vincent van Gogh, one of the most celeb French painter, that painters understand nature and love her and teach us how to see. That's actually the arts department of Sauve la Nature, where we use creativity and all forms of art. And actually, that's what's beautiful about each and every country. Even India, the art of India is actually very much related with nature when you try to look through the philosophy of it. And this is how we use art as a form of communication to make people understand nature, not just to comprehend nature, but also to feel it. And that's the duty of our artists, in Sovlanatia. That's the art department where you can see our artists very happily in action. And also creativity is for the humankind. For example, Leonardo da Vinci, one of the most passionate and most curious person that ever lived on earth, specialized in science, in the arts, in so many fields, anatomy. Here you can see the power of creativity, where simple creativity mingled with art. Our members created this box of Diwali to celebrate Diwali, where we didn't use plastic or paper. We rather used the banana leaf to create it. So that's actually the power of art that we want people to see. And also when we celebrated Christmas, we taught our members, we promoted them to not cut down Christmas trees, but rather construct a Christmas tree out of creativity. And one member created this Christmas tree out of books. And when you can see in the right, a birthday, when another member celebrated a birthday, to show how we can even celebrate without using non-renewable material like plastic balloons or stuff like confettis. All of this art to show that human beings can live their own way, their festival way, without hurting the nature. And we have another department, the more important one, Flora department, where our ultimate goal is to plant, like both Rohit Sachva and Srinidhi said, we have to know how to just not to talk, but to put our hands in the soil. And this is what we do also in Sovlanatia, that even the youngsters, everyone should now know how to plant, because planting is the future. And for example, you can see in the picture where planting also conservation of nature foster a healthy relationship between anyone that tries to do it. Mom and son teaming up for nature conservation is one of the best photos that, one of the best things that happened actually. And in this picture, you can see me and my father. My father was once a laborer. He worked in the field back when the indentured laborers from India came to Mauritius. Most of our ancestors worked in the sugarcane fields and planted. And I think it's very important to get back to that root in terms of planting, because the spirituality itself of India teaches us how nature is of divine importance in human life, and how each and every human being should contribute for the betterment of nature. And here you can see the future, where this is what you actually meant by spreading compassion into other people, and especially the youth, because each and everyone should be able, like Ruhi Dashva said, should be able to know about the flora and the practical of nature, not just the theoretical part of it. And we also have another department, one of the most important ones, the STEM department, where I'm the head of that department, being an engineering student. We promote sustainable development according to the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and promote research in environmental friendly fields to promote biodiversity. For example, here you can see how bamboo, we can use treated bamboo instead of steel in concrete reinforced bars. And finally, we have the sports department, where we promote eco-friendly hikes. In the picture, you can see we promoted, we did it ourselves, and people in Mauritius, members, followed after that to hike, but after reaching the peak of the mountain, to come back and to start picking up the waste. This is the healthy lifestyle that I believe all human beings should now possess, to be able to continue to live in a sustainable way. And here you can see our members in nature. And this also connects us at a spiritual level and sports level with nature, to breathe in that air. We should also experience nature, not just talk about it or understand it. We should get on field and do something about it. That's what really I believe we should do right now. And you can see we collected this huge cigarette butts, a lot of cigarette butts on the beach. And this is how we spread the positivity and awareness of nature. We also do cleanups. This is this is how important biodiversity should look at any person on this planet. And finally, we have the green politics department, where, like I was saying before, each and every field should be able to connect with nature. We shouldn't say that, yes, the politics is not related to nature or science is not related to nature, but each and every field should be related to nature. Here in this picture, for example, we went to a political conference where there were political intellectuals, and unfortunately, they were using plastic bottles everywhere, even though they were speaking about the environment. And we were brave enough at that time to go on that platform and to speak about it. And we created a movement that all the youth collected the plastic bottles and started like to get the idea of recycling plastic bottles or using them for arts project. So those plastic bottles, we use them further in our sub-art department, eco-fashion department, where one of our goal is to promote sustainable fashion also, to waste clothes, to reuse clothes. And for the waste that we've amassed, we can use them for art exhibitions like one of these, and also for a fashion department. Just to show you that creativity has such a power that it can bring us back to the roots of nature without us really changing our own behaviors. And finally, my favorite one, we have the spirituality and philosophy of nature, where we foster the deep connection between humans and nature. That's actually, I think, among the most important things. We have the science, yes. The science teaches us the one language of nature, mathematics. The scientist Neil deGrasse Tyson said that if you want to understand the universe, you need to learn its language, and that's mathematics. But I also think that human beings need not just be intellectuals to learn about it, they must also feel nature. So to know that through nature one can attain inner peace and joy. And this has always been preached by our predecessors. And that's what I mean by it's time to get back to the roots, but using creativity so that we don't disturb ourselves. And this is how we perform yoga and meditation with Sublanatya in the spirituality department. And yeah, one thing about speaking about the COVID-19, confinement is definitely the proof of how humans feel suffocated without nature between four walls of concrete blocks. And the executives of Sovlanatsia, as you can see here, promoted that we just recently raised curfew. We are no longer under confinement, just recently. And this taught us so many things actually about ourselves and our behavior towards nature. And we promoted this healthy, it might seem funny for the young generation, but anything can be crazy, but any idea that has sense and deep connection with whatever you believe in is very important. Here we've promoted hugging trees because to show how much trees are important, for the life of a human being. And also the science has proved, the science that I'm actually studying, has proved that when one person hugs a tree, the heart actually gets connected with that tree. And there are electropulses in the heart, which are negative electrons. And those negative electrons, the negative energy from your body, get transferred to the tree and get absorbed by the earth. This process is called earthing in physics, actually. And this is how we promote spirituality and also science on behalf of nature. And like Srinidhi told earlier, one of the main things that the COVID-19 taught us is that this virus actually, in one perspective, it can save the planet. The science literature have shown that more than 4% of the carbon emission have been decreased during the past few months of confinement. And in Sovereignty, we really think that just like this virus, this depiction of the virus, as you can see the envelope, the spike glycoprotein over there, it's actually, the envelope actually depicts how, it's very similar to how human behaves. Similarly, as soon as the envelope is dissolved, the nucleocapsid phosphoprotein, that is the RNA, the virus actually, gets, depending on its environment, it either replicates in the human body or it dies. It either creates destruction or it dies. Similarly, as soon as human beings loses humanity, loses the envelope and love and forgets about being a human being, they either die or over-replicate to create destruction. That's why we really need humanity more than ever right now. I believe that just like a bow and arrow, we once burned down the lungs of Mother Nature. We've all experienced the saddening videos of the Amazon forest burning, one of the main lungs of nature, just recently. And we believe that we've asphyxiated nature. And now, similarly, like we've asphyxiated nature, nature has created such a defense mechanism now that it has started to get into our lungs, creating chaos and asphyxiating us. And this is literally karma in Hinduism, like what, and also it goes along with Newton's poetry of understanding the science, that each and every actions result in an equal or opposite reactions. So that's Newton's third law. Before finishing, I would like to depict this bow and arrow picture where the more we are going to hurt nature, the further we are pulling back the arrow. And this arrow is going to hit humanity to the core. This is what we believe in, the spirituality of nature. And here's the definition of karma, actually, nature's way of payback. Because what you do, anything that you do with the universe will come back to you in unexpected ways. And unfortunately, we human beings, here is the Newton's third law, where in mechanical engineering we learn more intrigue, Newton's third law in applied aerodynamics, where each and every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So I think one of the most important things that the coronavirus taught us is that the value of time. The value of time. We as human beings have committed mistakes in the past, but now that we've stayed at home, we've bonded again with our family and we've thought about what we have done. I really believe it's high time to change our behaviors and to connect not just at an intellectual level, but also at a spiritual level with nature. I believe nature, that's my personal belief. In Sovereignty, we believe nature is one of our most cherished friends. But as my personal belief, I believe that nature is an expression itself of Almighty God. And I always write nature with capital N. And this is what we need to change. This is what the COVID-19 should have, the way the COVID-19 must be understood, and the positivity that we should take out of all these negativities. And that's it. Thank you for your attention. And this is a brief summary of what we do here in Mauritius, Sauve la Nature, and voilà. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Krishna. Thank you so much. It was a very interesting presentation. So we'll get back to you, but we have with us Dr. Jajati Nayak. So we're gonna talk to him first. Sir, can you hear me? So as I mentioned, Dr. Nayak is a scientist. He is working with the Department of Atomic Energy, Kolkata, and he is working on variable energy and also cyclotron energy. So Dr. Nayak, hello,
Yeah.
sir. A very warm welcome to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thanks, BK team and Subhasri for the opportunity to share my views and thoughts on the World Environment Day. And I personally hope this kind of discussion and frequent such initiatives, awareness programs on environment will lead us to live with a better environment in future. And now we know why we are observing a day declaring specially for environment. This is because somehow we have observed or felt that environment is getting polluted and not becoming earth for healthy living for human beings as well as other creatures and plants. The composition of the environment is changing very fast, and somehow we feel it is more or less man-made, right? So, but yes, most of the times it is man-made, and sometimes it is natural. Like we know that the extinction of the dinosaurs and several other species, some flora and fauna are extincted or vanished from the earth. Those are because of natural processes. It's not necessary that always it's man-made. But the thing is that we can do much for the natural events that disturbs the nature. Rather, we can minimize the man-made environmental destruction, which we feel might be connected to this natural disaster. Anyways, we find some sort of connection always that the man-made destruction is related to the natural one. And because of natural disaster, some part of the flora fauna get vanished, and some new things also may appear. And what we generally attribute to this kind of natural disaster, that since man is destroying the nature, nature is taking its revenge or rearranging itself, basically giving another kind of stability. On the other hand, we are more made part and always discuss to minimize it. I'm saying minimizing the destruction of the environment of nature, not stopping. This is because we can't stop completely, as we have to survive also. For example, we need steel, which is an integral part of our life. If we need steel, then we have to do the mining, and that is to disturb the nature. Let us say we should constrain our, so we can minimize the use of steel. There is a we can do that, but we cannot completely stop using steel. It's difficult. If for the minimum things like or let us say some food, we have to depend on the nature, and some sort of we have to basically exploit nature. That is the correct word we can say, exploit the nature. But the aim is to basically minimize the action. What should we do then? Only or minimizing the consumption for our own comfort. We have to go into the concept. The world is basically chasing after consumerism. So we have to go away from the concept of consumerism. And in fact, this thing has been very well thought, very well described by our ancient rishis And they have also developed the concept. And hopefully, all of us know or might have encountered concept in Upanishad, which has been described, Tena Teptena Bhunjita. I think in Isavasya Upanishad, Isavasya Sarvamidam Jagat, I think Jagatam Kit, Tena Teptena Bhunjita, Madhudha Asasiddhanam, which says basically we would consume, but consume with a sacrifice. Tyaga Purvaka Upabhoga. Basically, whichever is barely required, that much we have to consume from the nature. And this is the way we have to minimize interference with the nature or destruction of the environment. In other words, maximize the preservation of the nature. And how to do it? It's a very difficult thing. And that is through developing a way of life. How you are leading your life, that makes much impact to the environment. Basically, it is at individual level. But if we try from at our individual level, so then trial from individual level makes the impact at global level. It's obvious. But which is more obvious is that, again, this has been already described, the way of life, which we say the spiritual way of life. And sometimes people are confused. To lead a spiritual way of life, one need not be religious, one need not be a monk. So one can lead. And this is much more scientific and synchronous with the nature. For example, we use car frequently, we use these motor vehicles frequently. And for a 1 kilometer distance, if we have some work, we can use a bicycle. We can basically minimize the use of that motor vehicle. So those things can be done. And maximum minimization, basically optimizing the comfort or the basic necessity and the natural extracted products, we can have hopefully a better, basically environmental preservation way we can lead to a better future. And I think Subhasri has mentioned that to little bit talk about this nuclear effect of the nuclear radiation on the environment. And in this regard, I would say the whole scientific community, they have developed certain technologies which they basically try to minimize the effect of harmfulness, effect of harm. So through this nuclear technology. And there is always some sort of myth is there that nuclear technology is basically anti-nature and it basically spoils all the environmental things, biodiversity, etc. And these are, I think, not with they are not substantiated with facts, because the radiations and all those things coming from this nuclear industry is much less compared to the natural radiations we obtain, which is basically natural, maybe cosmic radiation, maybe solar radiation, even also sometimes some food grains we are eating, those are also radioactive, like banana. So it contains potassium 40, which is radioactive. So those kind of minimum radiation that doesn't harm, because we can categorize the radiation, ionizing radiation, non-ionizing radiation, and those kind of radiation doesn't harm basically our cellular level or at the level of molecules. So those, I think, I can say with strong words, those are. So some propaganda people are making that nuclear radiation is something that harms the biodiversity of the nature. And basically, if I quantify the number, this cosmic radiation which are coming mostly objects, astronomical objects, apart from the solar radiation, those are much more harmful than the normal radiation that we obtain from the nuclear industry. Even if in the medical sector also we use X-ray and all sorts of tomography, basically computer CT scan, etc., where the magnetic field, high electric and magnetic field is used, those also produce some radiation. And it is very well calculated, very well basically established that all those radiations are not that much harmful for a human being as far as a lifetime of 60 years or 100 years is concerned. But the total amount of radiation they receive is not much more. If you go to this North Pole or South Pole, where the Earth's electromagnetic field is quite high, quite intense, there also you will find some beautiful creatures are there, like this polar bear, some sort of seal fish, and also some other sea creatures, beautiful creatures. So those also survive there with those radiations. But yes, that depends on the different kind of capability, basically to depends on animal to animal, plant to plant. So what is their capability to sustain that radiation? And whatever is nuclear industry is producing is not much. So medical sector is producing much more than nuclear industry. And then cosmic radiation is much more harmful, but we cannot do anything. That is natural. It's not true that nature cannot be very rude to us. Sometimes natural processes also we have observed natural processes are rude to us. But yes, whatever is available with us, we can basically, according to considering the sustainability, we have to optimize. To what extent we should exploit nature, to what extent we should not. That is basically a matter of, we can say, moral thing. So as I said, again, I emphasize that basically saying by our rishis in Upanishad, tena tyaktyena bhunjita. So we should consume that much, whichever is basically barely required for us according to our basic necessity. Otherwise, we should sacrifice some sort of comfort. Then only human beings can think for a longer sustainable period, or generation to generation. That is the only way. So you can take any example, like the previous speaker mentioned very nicely. Just during that time I just entered, and nicely that all those things comes from basically from if we are more conscious, then preservation nature would be maximum. So individual level, if you do practice, then it can make an impact at the global level. So you take any kind of example, maybe it is mining, maybe it is a preservation of the turtles, maybe preservation of some other biodiversities. So basically constraining our desires and minimizing our use of the products, natural products, that we can do much better to the, we can really do the justice to the nature, and nature can be preserved. So that's what with this, I complete my set. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nayak, for joining us and sharing your views. It was indeed an enlightening talk. So now we will move on to the questions. But before that, Arun has some video to share. So he could not join us today, but he's shared some video which we would like to show you all. So I request the hosts to please share the video.
Rucha, I think there is some technical glitch. I think we can continue and we can come back with the video. Thank you so much for the video. I think, Rucha, we may continue now.
I think there's some technical problem on her side.
Yeah, I think Rucha has gone incognito, I believe. But I think what Dr. Nayak said was very nice. I was listening to a few things, and I think it resonates with what we have always been discussing in the past hour or so. One of the things that Krishna said in his presentation was, why spirituality? And he said that we cannot separate nature from other fields. And it was very interesting to see during the presentation that how you have clubbed in everything, not just politics, not just spirituality, not just travel and adventure. There's so many aspects that we have the connection with nature. And I guess if we have that inclusive approach, then it becomes attractive to everyone. And like Rohit Ashur was also saying that not just teaching things in the school about the water cycle, the carbon cycle, the scientific aspects, but also bringing people closer to nature and making it all inclusive and in all aspects of life, in all fields of study, there's a connect with nature. And Dr. Nayak mentioned a few things which also resonated with what Krishna had to say. I believe the Brahma Kumaris have been participating in the United Nations Climate Change Conferences since 2009. Every year at the UNFCCC and also the COPs. And we have always been asked this question by people saying that, why a spiritual organization at a climate conference initially? And over the years, people have come to this understanding that spirituality is at the heart of human behavior. If we have a better understanding of our relationship with nature, with things around us, then probably we would be more better off human beings. And Dr. Nayak also mentioned about the spiritual way of life. And it does not require you to give up on things. It doesn't ask you to become a monk or something. It is just having a simpler way of life. And I think, like when we talk about sustainable development goals today, the SDGs, we know there is so much that we can do. And in the Brahma Kumaris, we always have said that if you have a simpler way of thinking, then there is a simpler way of speaking. And if you have a simpler way of speaking, there are simpler ways of acting. And Mother Teresa once said that what the world needs today is not great action. It requires simple acts of kindness. And I guess that is where Rohit Ashur resonates with me, where these simple acts of doing small things together as small individuals, if we do simple acts like this, that would bring about a greater change as well. And I believe we at the Brahma Kumaris had developed a small poster for the last COP participation, and it was about this. There are 10 simple ways how you can change the things around us, how we can create a better planet. The first things that are very simple that we do is try to simplify your life, try to simplify your needs. And we say, let's say anything that you take from nature. If it is your birthday, so probably you would want to buy new clothes. If there is a festival like in India, if it is Diwali or some bigger festival, we would buy new clothes. And I think we can stop ourselves there. That 2 times during the year I buy new clothes, but now shopping has become a kind of retail therapy for us. So we want to go out just to feed ourselves, to buy new things, even though they might not be necessary. But it is just a way of soothing our minds that retail buying things makes us happy. But if we can actually be happy by not doing anything, if that happiness resonates or originates and springs out from the inside, then probably we'll not look out for external sources of happiness. And if contentment, happiness, joy, peace, if we go back to those original resources inside that is always there, then probably we will not seek those things outside. And Dr. Naik rightly pointed out that since ancient times in India, people have always put spirituality at the heart. It doesn't have to be any religion. It doesn't have to be a religious practice. It is just about your attitude and awareness of looking things wholeheartedly. So what few things that we can do is probably try to simplify our lives, try to simplify our needs. Probably we could make a list of things that we would want to simplify with. And if we can make our own list of 5 things that I am going to change, then there is a greater thing that we can do. I think we all live in a digital age. So we need to take time off and to be with the nature as well. And our inner nature is nourished by the outer nature. So as much time we spend with nature outside, plants, trees, rivers, sources of water, land, if we do that, then probably we can have a better understanding as well. I think the few things that I do, I would just want to point these things out, and I would want to close. What I have to say is I try to consume less. I try to pollute less. There are simple things like we have to change our toothbrushes every 6 months. The dentist advise it. But then why choose a plastic toothbrush? Can we not choose for a better option? It is about asking this question again and again. When I have to buy something, is there a better option to this? Is there a more sustainable option to this? Then when I travel, I also make sure that I do not pollute. I do not throw things out. I make sure that I do not buy anything that has plastic. I do not buy mineral water bottles that are packaged water bottles in plastic. So I'm always ensure that I carry a steel bottle that I have. So, and these are more friendlier options that we can do. These are simple things that we can do. We can become vegetarians, or we can go vegans. We can stop meat eating. It is a great way of trying to reduce the greenhouse emissions of the planet and be compassionate towards all the beings of the nature. And we all know that in the past 5 years or so, the viruses that have come in, the SARS virus, the Nipah virus, the Zika virus, this coronavirus, all have come from animals. And we know that zoonotic diseases is what we call it in the technical terms. So these animals produce the viruses that come from these animals are not because that the animals have come to us. We have gone and hunted these animals in their habitats. If we had respected their privacy, if we had not really hunted them for our own sakes, we had not hunted these species for their exotic value of food, then probably we would have been in a better and safer place. So probably we can shift to a more vegetarian and eco-friendly diet that could also help. Either you can become vegetarian or vegan, or even if you're a meat eater, try to go on reducing meat consumption day by day and see how it works for you. Use less electricity as much as possible. Do not use as much air conditionings and water heating equipment. Try to travel with eco-friendly modes of travel. Do not take a flight as long as it is not absolutely necessary. Share public transport. When you take bath, probably use a bucket bath rather than standing in front of the shower. We all know that shower wastes a lot of water. And more importantly, be a conscious buyer, be a conscious consumer. And the last thing that I say is when you spend time with nature, meditate. When you meditate, make yourself more peaceful, make yourself more happier inside, make yourself more compassionate inside. And when you are that inside, you will give the same things outside. And like Krishna was saying in his presentation, that it is the law of nature, it is the law of science. It is also the law of karma, that what you give is what you get, the equal and opposite reaction. So let me give good things to nature, and those good things will come. So on that note, I would like to thank you for giving me an opportunity and sharing. It was really, really, really enriching experience to listen to all of you, especially my young friends, Rohit, Ashwin, Krishna, and Dr. Nayak shared some very deep insights from the scientific as well as the spiritual perspective of cultivating this habit of tyaga, of the principle of sacrifice. We have all understood in religions that we have sacrificed animals on the altars, but I think what we need to sacrifice now is we need to sacrifice our needs, our demands, and our thoughts of overconsumption. And with that sacrifice, I think there is a lot more that we can achieve. Thank you very much once again. It was indeed a pleasure talking to all of you.
Thank you so much, Srinidhi. We're pleased to have you as a part of a team. So there are a few questions that people have asked. So we have some more time. So maybe in just a few minutes, we can quickly answer their questions. So Shweta has asked that can we ever bring back the best of biodiversity or Mother Nature as it was many years ago? And she's also asked another question. She's heard about new initiatives like yogic farming. So will that help to conserve nature? So these are the two questions.
I believe about the biodiversity question, Rohit Ashwa might want to give his inputs there, and I would answer about the yogic farming. Rohit?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Shweta, what you are asking precisely here. Oh,
So
what best? What best are you talking about?
So she's asking
What is the
whether
best?
we can.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Rucha. Can you repeat it?
So she hasn't mentioned what she means by the best, but maybe how Mother Nature was a few years ago or decades ago, maybe.
No, not at all. Not at all. We can't get this that state again, because evolution is a continuous process. You can't go back and put the nature in when it was in the past.
Okay.
And nothing is best, you know. Nature will get its equilibrium eventually.
Okay.
So what is best for you, you have to think about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, may I add up a point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as that question is concerned, so to have that kind of biodiversity. So am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to have that kind of biodiversity, again, you go back to that level of consumption. For example, if you go back 100, let us say 200 or 300 years back, so you can say the whole earth was beautiful, full green, etc. So many kind of species of basically plants and animals were there. At that time, if you observe, the consumption of human beings' consumption was much less. Right now, we see as our respected BK mentioned that we are using toothbrush, which is a plastic one, but they used to brush with the basically some certain neem tree or maybe I think there is meswak or neem or some sort of things. Those are biodegradables. If you go to our kitchen, so they used to earthen pots. So those are biodegradable. So all those things they were using biodegradable products. Again, we cannot say that their intellectual level was less, but knowing each and everything, they have designed, basically they maintain some sort of equilibrium in the society at that time. So many things they were using was basically a long-term, either it is biodegradable, or for example, they are using copper pot. And also copper pot, if you once you make a pot, it will go 100 years, 200 years. You can recycle it also. So in that sense, if we can go back to that level, so whatever we'll use biodegradable things, so then probably we can get back that kind of biodiversity, which we used to, basically our ancestors used to have 200, 300 years back. And it's a positive thing that the whole world is again moving towards that direction, because nowadays people are much more aware. But one problem is that we became more greedy, became more selfish. So in our attempt, if we can, if we become selfless or less greedy, then probably we can some sort of compromise with our comfort. Then maybe we can get back to some level so that we can have a better biodiversity. And it's very difficult to have exactly that kind of biodiversity, but we can improve. So there is a positive sign.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Nayak.
Yes. So Srinidhi, can you tell us something about yogic farming?
I guess this is something which is a new experiment that the Brahma Kumaris have been doing over the past many years now. And this came from one of the farmers who is a regular practitioner of meditation at the Brahma Kumaris. And since in India and world across, we have more than 9,000 centers and more than 20 lakh people at the moment who practice meditation that the Brahma Kumaris have been teaching. So people try to experiment with their own meditations and stuff. So we all understand the principle of organic farming, and it is just a step ahead. I would say it is an augmentation to organic farming, where we practice meditation as a part of farming as well. So yogic meditation, you can search it on the internet, and it created such a vibe inside the farming communities. Many of the agricultural universities in India also did a research on the effectiveness of how this farming works. So the basic concept is we do organic farming, but we augment that with meditation. And we always found that the crops that we grow with the augmentation of meditation would give better yield than the organic ones. And since experimentations were conducted by the universities, the agricultural universities, several universities in India, like the G.V. Pant Agricultural University in Uttarakhand, like the Dantewada Agricultural University here in Gujarat. So many universities have come and they have measured the growths that the crops give. So what we do is, along with doing yogic farming, people would go out to the field. The farmer would sit in the field, maybe 10 or 15 minutes in the morning and 10 or 15 minutes in the evening, or whenever he or she finds the time. They would go to the farms and they would give the vibrations of love and peace. They would, we in India have always believed that when we would start eating food, we would always sprinkle water on our plates. We would usually say a prayer. Not only in India, otherwise also in Christian communities also we have this habit of saying the prayer before we eat the food. In the Muslim communities, we have this habit of saying Bismillah before we consume food. So we have always believed that when we create a positive vibration, that has an effect on food. And one of the Nobel laureates was Sir J.C. Bose, Jagdish Chandra Bose, also pointed out a long time ago, I believe 70 years ago, he believed that the plants also respond to vibrations. The plants respond to music. The plants respond to human interaction. So we have had stories in the ancient times where the trees would speak, where people would speak to the trees. So, and we also have this very famous example of the Solomon Islands, that the tribals in the Solomon Islands, whenever they want to cut a tree, they would not use the axe. They would not use any equipments to chop down the tree, but instead, the community of tribal people would go to the tree, the specific tree which they wanted to cut down, and they would abuse the tree. They would tell the trees so many bad things that the tree would naturally die and it would fall off within a few days. And that is how they would collect wood, whatever they needed the tree for. So these examples have existed where trees and nature has responded to our emotions, has responded to our thoughts. And so we give out those thoughts to nature. Just like animals, if you have a pet at home, if you have a cat or a dog or any pets that you have to give that love and care and affection to the animal. That animal also responds with that love that you give to the animal. So we always know that if a dog loves you back, we know it would wiggle a tail, it would come, it would hug you, it would go around licking your feet. So when you love the animal also loves back. So the same thing happens with plants as well. And when you send out the vibrations of love, of peace, they respond naturally, and there is a documented growth in the output that comes out of that kind of farming. And some people also experimented it to such a level that when there is an infestation, let's say if there are certain pests that attack the crop, what do you do? So in traditional farming, what would we do is we would use pesticides. But here, again, if a crop is infested with pests, what the farmers would do is they would go sit in their farms and they would speak to the pests. They would meditate and they would say, you are part of the nature, and there is a part of this crop that belongs to you, that is part of your ecosystem. So you can take as much as you want, but you also ensure that there is a certain need that we also have. So please only take as much as that is necessary. And by creating these thoughts, people, the farmers in India, the several thousands of them who have experimented with them and who are practicing yogic farming now, who do not use pesticides or fertilizers, and they have in their experiences shared this, that the pesticides are of no use for us. They don't need to use any pesticides. The pests that they have attacked the farms would leave in 2 or 3 days, and the damage to the crop is very little. And we know that in spite of using pesticides, there is a certain amount of damage that is always done to the crop. But they have measured that without using pesticides, by just talking to the pests and meditating, the damage that is caused to the crop by these pests is much lesser than the use of pesticides. There are so many experiences like this. Of course, on the internet, there is information about it. There are clear guidelines about how you can start doing yogic farming. And this is not a new thing. It is the ancient method of farming in India. And if I would have to use the scientific term, it is a symbiotic way of relationship in farming, where each organism contributes to the ecosystem. So when you farm something, when you're taking out of the earth, the other organisms would also want something from it. So it is a both give and take relationship, and it works. And it is documented scientifically now. And the best that I would say about spirituality and science, again, is if you want to believe in it, probably you should experiment with it, try and see it. And when you see it, seeing is believing.
Thank you.
Can I add something, Rucha?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I just want to add that you can't restore biodiversity again. I think we have this very wrong notion that we can restore the biodiversity. Mm-hmm. Whatever we have lost, we have lost. Like, I will give you a simple example. We have done field work around the Ganga River, and we have encountered approximately 140 fish species and 13 turtle species. This is the current trend. You don't know how many species were there in past in Ganga. There may be 50 species of turtles and 300 species of fishes. You can't say, because you know the current status of the Ganga biodiversity. But the best thing which you can do is to conserve, or you can focus on the current biodiversity what you have. So I just want to add that we have this wrong notion that we can preserve the biodiversity. We have to focus on the current biodiversity, whatever we have.
I think what Rohit wants to say is preservation is what we can do.
Yeah.
Bringing back the same thing is not something that we have in our hands.
Because these evolved in million years.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not about 300 years or 1,000 years. It is a very very long process.
Yeah.
There are some various historical factors which affects the speciation. So we just have to focus on the current trends.
So what we have is we preserve, and we make sure that more damage does not happen.
Yes, definitely.
So yeah, one just point is that regarding Jesse Bose, although he didn't get the Nobel Prize, but he was not less than any Nobel laureate because of his fundamental discoveries. So all radio communications we are right now enjoying, because of Bose before Marconi. And another one point also I want to add, that Jesse Bose first also pointed that not only all the living beings, even also non-living beings, he tried to point out consciousness, but unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, scientific community till now didn't agree with that. But he is the first person to experiment that the plants have life, and also some non-living beings they have non-living objects has the consciousness, which is still now not verified or proven. And second thing with Mr. Rohit, there's one thing is that regarding biodiversity. So any kind of biodiversity, when these are developed, these are basically because of the cross mutation. And the cross mutation, we know since the system is evolving, so we may not get new kind of biodiversity may appear because of the cross mutation. But exactly if similar kind of cross mutation happens, maybe similar kind of biodiversity may arise again. But it's not that this similar fashion it will arise. So basically the fundamental principle of the biodiversity is the cross mutation, and we do not know what will happen in future, because that dynamics we do not till now we do not know. So that's why whatever direction the whole dynamics is moving, so we are moving along with the direction. We don't have any control over that. So basically that's why sometimes it is called that human beings are परिस्थिति का दास है हम लोग. We are basically slaves of the time. That's what I want to say.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nayak. So there's another question that is directed towards you. So Atul asks, if atomic energy harms biodiversity, then why are we still continuing with it?
No, again, I am telling that atomic energy, till now, whatever the nuclear industry, you mean the atomic energy. So till now, there is no proof that nuclear industry harms the biodiversity, because that's what I told. Whatever the radiation the nuclear industry produces, maybe in each year or each month, that is much less than the radiation produced by the hospital industry. Like you are exposed to the X-ray, you are exposed to CT scan when you visit a hospital. So those kind of radiations are much more than the radiations which is available outside the nuclear power plant. So that's why, and when biodiversity will be spoiled, if a radiation can damage the at molecular level, then only biodiversity will be affected. And that kind of damage never happens from the radiations from the nuclear industry. Rather, the cosmic radiations, which are basically the rays and particles are coming from the outer space, are much more harmful than the radiations coming out of the nuclear industry. Only one problem happens when there is an accident, like Chernobyl accident in Russia. And because of that accident, yes, the biodiversity, there are some proofs biodiversity has changed. But those kind of accidents are very rare things. And probably nowadays it has been completely, those kind of accidents, it's not 50 years, I think after Chernobyl, we don't have those kind of accident. Only Fukushima, after the tsunami, we have certain accident that we observe that accident, but that is not, whatever harm happened, that is not because of the nuclear radiations. Some chemical reactions, that is not because of the nuclear radiation, that is because biologically try to stop the reactor. So basically, in that sense, what I mean to say is that nuclear radiation from nuclear industry doesn't harm the biodiversity. Only one example is the Chernobyl accident, and that was an accident. And after that, nothing happened. I don't think, and there is any example where the biodiversity is spoiled.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Nayak. So there's another question for Rohit Ashwa. So the question is, give some inputs on diversity and distribution of coastal and marine invertebrates.
Actually, I don't have enough knowledge about the marine invertebrates. I will be not the right person to ask this question. But we are one of the hotspot of marine biodiversity. Okay. So we should all focus on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Is it because of the basically logical situation of India?
Yes, yes, true. That's
Yeah,
true.
okay.
We are tropical countries. We have a lot of energy inputs, and there are some biogeographical regions behind these climatic
Okay.
conditions. So that is why we see a lot of biodiversity hotspots in and around India.
Okay, thank you. So maybe one last question from Vedant Kumar. So he's asking if he could ask his question and through his video. So can the hosts unmute Vedant and also maybe give him permission to start his video? Yes, Vedant. Am I audible?
Hello everyone, good afternoon.
Yeah.
My question is what type of education should be given to children in school? Do you think there should be a separate subject for environmental conservation?
It should be there, I think, Vedant. But I think there are some environmental science courses in 11th, 12th. But it should be practical, not the theoretical. When students are in their teenage, they look towards the jobs. They have different targets. They don't much think about the nature. So
Yes.
when there will be marks, there will be some assignments which are necessary, which will be necessary, that will improve the biodiversity knowledge.
I think in the graduation also in the there is a course environmental science that is
Yeah,
compulsory for all students.
yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not. People don't take it seriously in
Yeah,
India.
that's true, sir. True.
I wanted to add something to Vedant's question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that as a student myself, third year in mechanical engineering, I think that we need to change the system, actually the institutional curriculum that we are doing now, because we are following years ago's education, where when Newton studied the laws of motion, etc., when Einstein studied energy, mass and light, they studied it in such a way that they couldn't possibly know what impact it will have in the future. And I think we should now change the curriculum and the system in itself in such a way that the ecosystem in itself, nature, is integrated in all core subjects that we are studying in a practical way and also in theoretical way, in such a way that it fosters and creates a mindset of future selflessness in the students, not just selfish learning and to get the best grades or to become engineers, doctors, no, but rather to work all together within their peers and for the betterment of the environment. So I think that the actual curriculum and the system can be improved, and the institutions also can be improved in such a way that we become less materialistic and more spiritual towards the nature in the core subjects.
Thank you very much, Krishna. So maybe some questions did remain unanswered, but we have some time constraints, and so we'll have to now sum up. So I would like to now know what you all would like to say as a concluding remark, or from the participants also, I would like to know what pledge do you wish to make on the occasion of the World Environment Day. So maybe you can send your comments in the chat window, and till then we can hear the concluding remarks from all our guests today. So yes, Dr. Nayak.
Yeah. So my thing is that it's better to be compassionate to all living beings, or maybe whatever we see around us, and that would basically ensure us to take care of them.
Yes, very true. So yes, who else would like to share? Rohirashva?
Yeah, so I would say that I think we should talk much, and we should sit side by side. The scientists are not talking to the civil society is not talking to the scientists, and there are many loopholes. We are not interdisciplinary. We have to sit, we have to talk, and we'll have to come up the proper answers. like Vedanta has pointed out that we have a lot of loopholes in our education. Our kids and our teens are not educated properly. They are not educated in terms of the nature knowledge. So we'll have to sit together, and then only we can come up with the proper solutions if we want to really conserve the biodiversity.
Yes, thank you very much. So yes, Krishna, your concluding remarks.
Yeah, so to conclude, I'd like to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart. And I've learned really a lot of stuff from, especially from Dr. Naik and Srinidhi and Rohit Ashva. One remark, positive remark, is that as a Mauritian, I really love India's how they mix spirituality and science. And I hope that one day my dream to come to India will come true. And I would like to thank all of you for the opportunity that you gave me as a youngster to voice out. And to conclude, I'd like to say that all of us present here, I think, are very much eco-concerned and conscious about what's happening outside. We all know the literature of the thing, but now when we go out, that's the vibe that we emanate, the thing that we express from our inner peace, how we express our inner peace and our understanding of nature towards people who don't understand nature. That's what's necessary for the change to happen. Because once we've changed ourselves, to change the world, we have to properly communicate and propagate the energy. Like Lord Krishna once did, picking up the huge piece of mountain with a finger just means that he's became the ultimate one. And ultimately, when he knows who he is and what he needs to do, he can just move mountains and move worlds. That's how we change the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Krishna. Srinidhi, over to you.
I guess everybody has summed it up so beautifully. I do not think there is nothing much to add. Dr. Naik said, Krishna said, Rohit Ashwa said, there's so much that there is already happening, and we should talk more, we should meet to more people, and a lot of those things. But one thing that I say, like we here in the Brahma Kumaris believe that everything begins from you, what you think matters. And if we can change our thoughts, if we can have good thoughts for everybody around us, including nature, animals, plants, then that goodness will resonate. So on a closing remark, I think I would take 30 seconds of your time, and I think that we should all experiment with meditation, even for people who are new to it. So if you're all ready, then probably we can try something.
Okay. Go ahead, Srinidhi.
Yeah, sure, we would love that.
Probably you would want to close your eyes or open your eyes. It's up to you. I'd give you a few thoughts. Let's just try to bring those thoughts into our awareness. I sit back and relax. I go to my fondest memory of nature. The memory where I have been nourished by nature. It could be a forest. It could be a river. It could be a beach. It could be an ocean side or a mountain. I see nature in its fullness. I see nature always giving its cool breeze, giving its soothing water, giving its nourishing food, giving sunshine and rain. So much I have received from nature. Today, I offer my gratitude to nature. Nature has given me peace. It has given me good health. I thank nature today. Thank you for taking care of me. I send out my love to you, that I care for you, and I recognize your value. I appreciate your beauty, and I will always be there for you. Om Shanti.
Thank you very much. Feeling very serene and relaxed. I'm sure everyone is. Thank you very much. So the hosts said that they have some announcement to make. They want to show some poster about an event, an international event that is going to take place at 4 p.m. today. So if the hosts would like to share the image of that event, yes. So this is the event.
The event is hosted by the Brahma Kumaris, and the event is called Flourishing Futures. It's the same theme that we were talking about. We have Sister Jayanti and other prominent dignitaries who would speak to us in the afternoon. So you can watch it on YouTube. The link can be shared to you. And you can also watch it on the Facebook page of the Brahma Kumaris. That is facebook.com/Brahmakumaris, and also the youtube.com/Brahmakumaris. So you can watch the program for live. I believe it is a 2-hour program, and it starts according to the UK time. So you would have to set your time zones accordingly. It starts at 12 in the afternoon to the UK time to 2 p.m. to the UK time. So you can set our clocks and probably watch the event if you'd like, and get some inspirations and see what other people have to say. Rucha.
Right. So thank you very much, Srinidhi, for telling us about it. So we'd now be ending this session. So, and as we asked our participants what pledge they would like to make, so Vedant has said that he would work on conservation of bird species. So I'm sure everyone would make a pledge on the occasion of the World Environment Day to work towards the betterment of ourselves and the environment. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Nayak. Thank you very much, Rohitashwa. Thank you very much, Krishna. Thank you very much, Arun. And thank you very much, Srinidhi, for being a part of this event and sharing your insights and your perspectives. So thank you very much to all the participants. Also.
Yeah, thank you,
Rucha.
Thank you, BK team, because you have done a wonderful job. Being a spiritual, basically spiritual organization, you are taking the lead for this environmental day. That is a nice thing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rucha. Thank you, Krishna. Thank you, Nayak sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Srinidhi. Thank you, Srinidhi.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure interacting with all of you. And we're looking forward to the event that takes place today at around 4 p.m. All right. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day.